As the persistent gloom of 536 AD cast its pall over the daily lives of ordinary people, vast empires and ambitious rulers also felt its chilling, invisible hand. Our focus now turns to one such emperor, Justinian I, whose grand vision for the Roman Empire coincided tragically with this unprecedented atmospheric event and a subsequent, even more devastating, catastrophe. Imagine the Eastern Roman Byzantine Empire at the cusp of 536 AD. Its capital, Constantinople, was a city of unparalleled splendor and power. Emperor Justinian I, a man of immense ambition and intellectual capacity, harbored a singular dream: to restore the glory of the Roman Empire to its former territorial extent, to reconquer the lost western provinces, and to unify the Christian world. He was a tireless administrator, a patron of monumental architecture, responsible for the Hagia Sophia, and a visionary legislator, commissioning the monumental Corpus Juris Civilis, a foundational text for modern law. His reign was meant to be a new golden age. His military campaigns were already underway, led by his brilliant general Belisarius. North Africa had been reconquered from the Vandals, and the armies were pushing into Italy against the Ostrogoths. Imagine the meticulous planning, the vast resources poured into these campaigns, the long supply lines stretching across the Mediterranean. These endeavors required stable economies, predictable harvests, and a healthy populace to provide soldiers and laborers. Then came the dimness of 536 AD. While not an immediate dramatic event, its prolonged effect began to subtly undermine Justinian's grand plans. The cold, the crop failures, and the ensuing food shortages began to strain the empire's resources. Taxes became harder to collect, as peasants had less to sell. The logistical challenges of feeding armies far from home compounded dramatically. The dream of restoration, while still pursued, found itself constantly battling against a world increasingly out of balance. Yet, the atmospheric dimness was merely the harbinger of a far more sinister and immediate threat: the plague of Justinian. Around 541 AD, just a few years after the initial onset of the global dimming, a devastating pandemic, later identified as caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, the same pathogen responsible for the Black Death centuries later, swept across the known world. It arrived in Constantinople in 542 AD, carried by rats on grain ships arriving from Egypt, a vital source of imperial food supply. Imagine the swiftness and ferocity of its arrival. Contemporary chroniclers describe bodies piling up in the streets, a sickening testament to its virulence. Procopius, a historian of the era, chillingly recounted that at its peak, the plague was claiming up to 10,000 lives a day in Constantinople alone. The sounds of daily life in the bustling capital would have been replaced by the mournful cries of the dying, the rhythmic clang of burial carts, and an eerie silence in deserted workshops and markets. The air, already dim, would have hung heavy with the smell of death and desperation. Justinian himself contracted the plague, though he famously recovered, a testament to his resilience, or perhaps sheer luck. However, his empire was ravaged. The plague drastically reduced the population, impacting every facet of society. Labor was scarce, armies dwindled, and the economy suffered a catastrophic blow. The very foundations upon which Justinian hoped to rebuild Rome began to crumble. His ambitious reconquest of Italy, already prolonged by the Gothic Wars, was severely hampered by the loss of manpower and resources. The dream, though pursued, became an increasingly desperate struggle against overwhelming odds. The combined impact of the climatic anomaly of 536 AD and the subsequent devastating plague fundamentally altered the trajectory of the Eastern Roman Empire. It weakened its ability to withstand later invasions and contributed to a long period of decline and transformation. Justinian's reign, meant to be a triumphant restoration, became a poignant testament to the fragility of human ambition in the face of widespread natural and biological catastrophe. His laws endure, his buildings stand, but the full flowering of his dream was forever shadowed by the persistent gloom and the devastating plague. Imagine yourself, if you will, not nestled in the comfort of your present, but standing on a farm, perhaps in the lands that were once part of the Roman Empire, or in the burgeoning kingdoms of Scandinavia, or even in the distant reaches of China. The year is 536 AD, and something is profoundly, unnervingly different. The sky, which should be bright and clear, is instead shrouded in a persistent, dim gloom. It is as if a permanent twilight has descended, casting a pall over everything. Your day, if you could call it a day in the traditional sense, begins with a sense of unease that settles deep in your bones. The sun, when it appears at all, offers little warmth, its light weak and diffuse, like a moon obscured by thin clouds. The air itself feels colder, a pervasive chill that defies the season. Contemporary accounts speak of the sun giving no more light than the moon, of perpetual dimness even at noon. This isn't just overcast skies, it's a persistent, unnerving murkiness that affects every living thing. Out in the fields, the impact is immediate and devastating. The crops, deprived of the vital warmth and light, struggle. Grain, which should be ripening, falters. Fruit trees fail to blossom fully, or their produce is stunted and tasteless. The familiar scent of healthy growth is replaced by the faint, unsettling smell of struggling vegetation. The ground, perpetually cool, retains a damp chill, making every movement in the fields heavier, more arduous. The sounds of thriving nature are muted. Even the birds seem quieter, confused by the unending twilight. The animals feel the change. Livestock appear listless, their coats dull. For many, this translates to dwindling food supplies. Your daily meal, typically simple, becomes even sparer. Perhaps a thin pottage, meager bread made from poor quality grain, if any is available at all. The taste is bland, lacking the vigor of well-grown food. The constant chill seeps into your dwelling, no matter how well built. Even by a small, smoky fire, the air remains uncomfortably cool, making restful sleep difficult. Beyond the immediate struggle for sustenance, the psychological toll is profound. This isn't a brief storm or a cloudy week. This is a relentless, unending dimness that stretches for months, then years. Superstition flourishes. Is this a divine punishment? The end of days, the inability to rely on the natural cycles of day and night, of warmth and cold, creates a pervasive anxiety. People look to the skies, but there is no answers, only the constant, unsettling gloom. Trade routes, already precarious, suffer further. With agricultural yields plummeting, famine begins to stalk the land. Food prices soar, placing an unbearable burden on the poor. Communities that once traded vibrant goods now scramble for basic necessities. The very fabric of society, reliant on predictable harvests and stable economies, begins to fray under this invisible, atmospheric assault. The soundscape of daily life shifts. The joyous chatter of children might be replaced by the quiet despair of their elders. The bustling sounds of a thriving market might diminish, replaced by hushed conversations about dwindling stores and uncertain futures. Even the sound of the wind, rustling through sparse leaves, seems to carry a mournful quality in the perpetual twilight. Life in 536 AD was a constant, desperate struggle against an unseen enemy, a veil of dust and ash, high in the atmosphere, blotting out the sun's vital energy. It was a year defined by cold, hunger, and a pervasive, existential dread that seeped into every aspect of existence, from the quiet struggle of the individual to the stability of entire kingdoms, from the human struggles under the dim sky and the devastating march of disease. Let us now turn our attention to the silent, invisible force that initiated this global catastrophe, the very earth beneath our feet. For centuries, the cause of the prolonged gloom of 536 AD remained a profound mystery, a historical anomaly hinted at in scattered ancient texts. The mystery began to yield its secrets, not from written records, but from the most unlikely of places. The polar ice caps, ice cores, drilled deep into the ancient layers of Greenland and Antarctic ice, act as time capsules. Theories ranged from volcanoes in North America to Iceland. Imagine the geological detective work, tracing geochemical signatures in the ice and comparing them to known volcanic compositions around the world. The ejected material reaches the stratosphere, high above the weather systems of the lower atmosphere. There, fine particles of ash and sulfuric acid aerosols can travel around the globe, creating a persistent, high-altitude veil. This veil acts like a global dimming filter, reducing the amount of sunlight reaching the Earth's surface. Recent studies, combining ice core data with dendrochronology, the study of tree rings, which show slowed growth during cold periods, have increasingly pointed towards a colossal eruption in Iceland as the primary event of 536 AD. But over months, as the veil thickened and spread, the consequences became undeniable. Reduced solar radiation leading to lower temperatures, widespread crop failures, and famine. It transforms scattered ancient laments about a failure of the sun into a scientifically understood global atmospheric phenomenon. The very air they breathed unknowingly, laden with volcanic dust, was the unseen force that pushed their world into a period of unprecedented hardship, casting a long, cold shadow over human endeavor and setting the stage for subsequent plagues and societal shifts. It was a global climate crisis triggered by a single geological event, a silent roar from the Earth's interior that echoed across continents. A subsequent, less impactful, eruption in 540 AD may have prolonged the misery. Each layer of ice contains atmospheric deposits, trapping dust, ash, and chemicals from specific years. Modern scientific inquiry, however, has begun to unravel the Earth's chilling secret. Imagine the painstaking work of climate scientists and archaeologists, piecing together fragments of evidence from across the globe. Imagine the quiet, meticulous analysis in a modern laboratory. Scientists examine these ice cores, looking for anomalies, and in the layers corresponding to 536 and 548, they found unusually high concentrations of sulfates and volcanic ash. This discovery was a profound revelation, pointing to massive volcanic eruptions as the likely culprits behind the persistent atmospheric dimming. Volcanic eruptions, particularly large, explosive ones, can inject vast quantities of ash and sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, where they linger for years, reflecting sunlight back into space and causing global cooling and dimming. The precise location of the initial massive eruption of 536 AD remained a subject of scientific debate for some time. Consider the sheer scale of such an event. When a volcano erupts with such force, it doesn't just send a plume of smoke into the local sky. The effects would have been subtle at first for those on the ground. A gradual dimming of the sun, a persistent chill that didn't feel quite right for the season. The scientific unraveling of this mystery highlights the interconnectedness of Earth's systems and the profound impact a single natural event can have on human civilization. As the volcanic veil dimmed the sun and the plague swept across continents, the year 536 AD and the decades that followed presented profound challenges to societies across the globe. Yet, even amidst such widespread hardship and despair, human resilience and the quiet pursuit of knowledge found ways to endure and even flourish in unexpected corners. Far from the direct impacts of the Roman imperial collapse and somewhat insulated from the immediate brunt of the volcanic winter's most severe agricultural collapse, though they certainly experienced the chill and dimming, Irish monasticism was entering a golden age. While the continent struggled, Irish monks preserved and propagated knowledge. While the common citizen faced immense suffering and the empire's grand ambitions were curtailed, certain aspects of intellectual and bureaucratic life persisted, nurtured by the imperial court and dedicated scholars. Let us contrast the general decline with two examples of societal institutions that, in their own unique ways, navigated this global crisis. Despite the population decline and economic strain, the complex administrative machinery of the empire required literate and skilled individuals. These scholars continued the traditions of classical learning, albeit with a stronger Christian emphasis. Yet these contrasting examples, the quiet, persistent scholarship of Irish monks, preserving texts in remote monasteries, and the steadfast, if sometimes constrained intellectual efforts within the Byzantine imperial bureaucracy, offer a glimpse into the diverse ways societies adapted and endured. They remind us that even in the face of global catastrophe, the quiet rhythm of daily life, dedication to purpose, and the human desire for understanding can persist, becoming beacons in times of profound darkness. Their work ensured that the rich intellectual heritage of Greece and Rome, particularly in law, philosophy, and history, was meticulously maintained and passed down. Imagine yourself, not in the ravaged fields of a crumbling empire, but in the remote, verdant landscapes of early medieval Ireland. Their daily existence, while privileged compared to the common folk, was also constrained by the emperor's will and the rigid hierarchies of the Byzantine state. Their luxury lay in access to knowledge and their proximity to power, but their freedom was often defined by the parameters set by the emperor. Their efforts, however, were crucial for the empire's eventual recovery and its enduring legacy as a bastion of classical learning in the East. They cultivated their own food in monastic gardens, providing a degree of self-sufficiency. This disciplined, communal existence, centered on faith and scholarship, allowed them to maintain a stable environment Even as the outside world faced unprecedented challenges, the age of saints and scholars in Ireland, flourishing from the 6th century onwards, stands as a testament to intellectual and spiritual resilience in a period of global darkness. Picture the monastic scriptoria, quiet, stone rooms, often damp and cold, illuminated by flickering candlelight or the weak, filtered light of the sun. Here, monks dedicated their lives to prayer, scholarship, and the painstaking act of copying manuscripts. Imagine the scratch of a quill on vellum, the smell of ink in old parchment, the hushed reverence as sacred texts, both Christian and classical, were meticulously reproduced. These were not mere copies. They were acts of preservation, ensuring that the wisdom of antiquity, which might otherwise have been lost in the turmoil of the age, was safeguarded. This quiet, repetitive labor, sustained day after day, year after year, became a vital lifeline for intellectual continuity in Western Europe. Their daily life was one of strict routine and spiritual discipline. Hours of prayer, manual labor, study, and simple, often vegetarian meals. Now, let us turn back to the heart of the Eastern Roman Empire, to the city of Constantinople, even as it reeled from the plague of Justinian. Consider the role of the Byzantine scholars and scribes, working within the imperial bureaucracy and nascent educational institutions. Unlike the independent monastic efforts in Ireland, the Byzantine scholarly class was often more directly tied to the imperial court. The period following 536 AD was undeniably one of widespread suffering and upheaval. As our quiet journey through the extraordinary year of 536 AD and its long shadow draws to a close, let us reflect on the lives we have quietly observed, from the dim, struggling farmsteads under a veiled sun to the ambitious emperor, battling both plague and a changed world, to the silent, unseen volcanic force that shaped an era, and finally to the quiet resilience of scholars preserving light in the encroaching gloom. The world of yesterday has receded into the quiet comfort of the present, leaving you in the stillness of the moment. May your mind find peace, and your rest be profound and undisturbed. Each existence, in its own way, was a testament to hardship, ambition, mystery, and enduring human spirit. We have felt the chill of an obscured sun, witnessed the struggle for survival, pondered the silent roar of the earth, and observed the quiet dedication that sustained knowledge through an unprecedented time. As these images begin to soften, and the historical details gently recede, allow the calming cadence of these stories to guide you towards a state of deep relaxation.